Pete, and welcome back to Question Christ. And again, this is another response to Jets fan 3161 about his Superstars of TBN series featuring Rod Parsley. Well, here's some place where we can agree. Absolutely. And again, I see this more as you having issues with men rather than with God. So, yeah, Rod Parsley's a clown. Absolutely. I'd say almost all the people on TBN are clowns. God never, this whole name it and claim it thing, this prosperity gospel is not something Jesus would ever have gone for. I mean, if you read the Bible, and I mean, you know, for someone who's a former believer, you have a good grasp of the Bible. So I think this is why you're annoyed, the way I'm annoyed when I see these guys on there. Because Jesus never talked about that. As a matter of fact, he talked about, you know, if you follow him, you're going to have trouble. People are going to hate you. People are not going to hear the truth. People are going to persecute you. You know, never saying that, you know, it's going to be easy. As a matter of fact, you know, he's talking about the cost in one of the Gospels. I forget what passage, but I can look it up for you. But, you know, know that you have to take up your cross. When the rich man came to him and said, "Hey, what do I need to do?" He said, you know, sell everything you have and pick up your cross and follow me. And, you know, I think there's one thing you have to make sure we touch on, though, is that God's not against people being, you know, having wealth or having money. It's what owns you. Does the money own you, or do you own the money? And what do you do with the money that you've been given? You know, so yeah, I don't think anyone should give money to Rod Parsley. Okay, unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there who are being sucked in by this, name it and claim it, prosperity gospel. If you pray hard enough and you tithe hard enough, you're going to get hooked up. Jesus never said that life was going to be a rose garden. Jesus pointed to the opposite. Okay, so they're preaching a false gospel. So, you know, I do find it a little entertaining sometimes. I'll see them on TV and I'll be like, wow, yeah, he is a showman, that's for sure. But once again, one thing I want to point out is that Jesus said that there's going to be trouble when you follow him. And if you go to John 16, verse 33, which is very famous, I told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. So Jesus is going to be there with us. We don't have to try to do it in our own power, but Jesus never promised us a rose garden, and Rod Parsley should know better than that. I feel bad for the people who watch Rod Parsley. I believe there are people who believe in Jesus who do not know their Bible. It comes down to not knowing the Word of God. People who do not know the Word of God can be manipulated and twisted around. Anyone who, I mean, I'm not a scholar by any means. I've just been studying my Bible and learning what the Bible has to tell me, and I see these people coming a mile away. But the problem is that people don't know the Word of God. And so any clown who gets up on TV can twist things around and just shed enough Christianese on it, where people will be like, "Oh, you know, that's great," and take advantage of people who are hurting and desperate. So now, I don't think there's anything wrong with giving and tithing either. I believe, you know, but again, you have to know what your church is doing with that money. You know, do I support my church because they have great services, great music, great preaching, great classes for my young children to learn about the Word of God, that they're supporting missionaries all over the world? Yeah, I tithe and I support my church, but I pick my churches very carefully when I go to church. I don't just go with anybody. And there are churches that some of my friends would go to that I would not give to because I see that they use their money more for their own financial gain and they don't use it for in the field more. So, you know, if you just give blindly to anything, but that goes to anything. You know, people are like, well, I want to give to charities because God, you know, that's, you know, giving away to other people or giving to my friends, and there's nothing wrong with that. But one of the arguments I hear is, oh well, you know, church is a man-made thing. All the organizations that you give to are man-made. Every charity is man-made. So again, you have to research what you're giving to, obviously, and researching Rod Parsley very clearly would show you don't want to go to give this to this guy. You know, there's nothing wrong with, I think, once in a while, like sometimes he's going to Africa or supposedly, and he goes and takes the photo op with the sick kids in Africa, and he wants to give some money, and I'm sure he does give some money to it. But the constant badgering of people for money is a warning sign right there. You look at a guy like Charles Stanley. Okay, I don't know if you've ever seen him. Charles Stanley is a very non-flashy, old-school Baptist preacher. Okay, I don't know why he's on there, but he's on TBN. He's like one of the only voices of sanity. I don't even know if he's on there anymore. But Charles Stanley never asks for money. Never. And he's on all over the world. And all he talks about is preaching the Word of God. So that's someone that you can watch and be, you know, someone you can respect. So I'm right there with you, man. Get rid of all these clowns. Absolutely. Because they're preaching a false gospel. However, that does nothing for the argument against the only God of the universe, the living, one true God. And so yeah, and I'm sure Jesus is going to have a talk with these people. You know, because they're leading people in the wrong direction. So I'm right there with you, man. And by the way, I saw your video that you sent back to me, your response. Awesome. However, I think you have me a little misunderstood, and I will be sending you a video soon to address where I think there needs to be some corrections. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.